there, and thanks for learning to play games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to take a look at a brand new game currently on Gamefound that is doing quite well at almost 2,000 backers as of this recording. That is The Cats of Mont St. Michael. This is a new one from RAYBOX. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 1 to 2 hours to play and is a fully cooperative storybook game where you're going to be playing through the game in a storybook. And each page is going to have different maps and different scenarios and different things that the players are going to have to accomplish to progress into the campaign. As the players, you're going to be playing the different cats that are trying to protect this abbey from the rats that are trying to get in and corrupt things and cause all kinds of other mayhem that we don't know yet until we get into the campaign and discover what is going on and why they are trying to get in here and mess things up. So in this video, I'm going to take you through showing you the main features of the game and also a sample turn to give you a better idea how this one plays, help you decide whether or not this is one you want to back on Gamefound. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we can continue to grow and be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I release new videos, also hit that notification bell and that'll let you know whenever I drop new videos, as I'm constantly dropping new teaching videos, playthroughs, crowdfunding videos, and many others. Before getting into the video, I do also want to point out that all the materials you see here are prototype materials and are subject to change and look a lot better than the final production copy of the game. So let's go ahead and head to the table and we'll see what this one's all about. The first thing I want to look at are the different characters that players can play as and their dashboards. So each player at the beginning of the game is going to select one or more cats that they'd like to play and they'll gain their dashboards. And each of these dashboards is going to have all the information you need to play that cat. Starting on the side, you're going to have the image of that cat along with its name and its stats for its melee ability. So if you don't have a weapon equipped, these are the stats you're going to use. The first one is your stun ability, and if you roll for example with Rayyan, a 5 through 8, you're going to stun your target. Next, underneath that is the wound. So if you roll a 9 or higher, you're going to wound your target and stun it, which is really nice. Then you have your inventory area where you're going to keep all your weapons and armor and gear and all that. At the top of that is going to show the number of hit points that your cat currently has, and if it ever reaches the bottom, then it is going to be eliminated. Next, you're going to have your hand slots, and these are going to be for your weapons, and you can have up to 2 hands worth of weapons equipped at any time. So each weapon is going to list the name of that weapon at the top, its cost if you're buying it from the merchant, followed by its stats going down the side. First at the top is the number of dice you roll when attacking with that weapon. Next is the number of hands that that weapon requires in order to hold it. So with this one, it's a one-handed weapon. Again, you'll have your 2 different stats for your stun and your wounds/stun. And underneath that is the range of that weapon in large spaces. Underneath that is the ability, if it has any, that that weapon will do when you use it. Next, you have a slot for your armor. This can be all kinds of different things, as you're going to see in a little bit. Underneath that is your loot slot. So you can hold up to 6 items in here, and these can range all kinds of different items that you'll collect throughout the game. On the side is going to be your skill slot. So as your cats gain levels throughout the scenarios, they're going to gain all kinds of different skills. And there's going to be some skills that are going to be very specific to certain cats. And with them, they're going to grant the cats different abilities, such as inspiring. This is a Rayyan skill. And this one says that all friendly figures within line of sight add +1s to their die rolls. May be used once every other round. So it gives him all kinds of different things. And then another one is the musket proficiency, which gives him +1 to attack rolls with muskets. And each character is going to have a number of these. There's also going to be tons of different loot cards throughout the game, and there's going to be different levels of loot cards. In the prototype, all I have are the level 1 cards, so I'm going to show you some of those. So here's an example of an armor, a helmet, and this is going to give you a special ability at the bottom. There's potions and coins that you'll be able to use in the merchant's shop, or booby traps, or other kinds of negative cards that are going to pop up in the loot deck, and other weapon cards, for example. And again, in the prototype, I have 4 different cats. I have Rayyan, Guy, Nira, and Adara. And there's going to be other ones included in the game, as you can see on the campaign page. Moving over to the enemies, in the main game, these will be cards, it looks like, that have been unlocked, but in the prototype that I have, these are just simply listed in the scenario. And there's going to be some enemies that you're going to see repeatedly throughout the scenarios, such as the ones I'm going to show you, and then there's going to be other ones that are going to be very specific to each scenario and will have their own special rules that are going to be presented in that scenario. So moving over to the 3 different enemies you're going to have pop up throughout your different scenarios are the Norwegian brown rats. These guys are your big bruisers. They can do serious amounts of damage and can take a number of hit points before going down. They're one of the few that actually have more than 1 hit point. And they have other effects as well that are going to make the rats more powerful when they're out. Next, you're going to have the testables, and they are going to cause problems with their toxic stench. And they also have different things that if you hit them when heroes are around them, there's going to be other nasty effects that are going to happen. So you want to kind of take care of these from range if you are able to. And then finally, we have the arbitrators, and they are going to have 1 hit point, and they're going to specialize in range combat. So they're going to stay away from you and try to shoot you with their crossbows. So these enemies are going to have to be dealt with as well before they take you down. And then there's also going to be roaches, and roaches are your very basic, easy to kill enemies, but they're going to overwhelm you and cause problems. And if a roach ever gets into the same space as a cat, it's going to deal a wound to the cat and then be removed, and all kinds of other problems. From there, let's get into the game. So the game itself is going to be played in a scenario book. And each scenario book is going to have an outline that's going to show you all the different things you need to do for that scenario, as well as the map for the scenario, which you're going to see next. So for example, with this one, at the top of the page, you're going to have the scenario, and this is scenario 1, and the name of the scenario and what loot deck you're going to use. So we're going to be using loot deck 1 for this one. Then you're going to have a little bit of backstory and narrative to set the mood so you know what's going on. And then it's going to describe what you need to do for your rat army pool. So this one's just going to have 6 roaches in it. Where other ones you'll have other tokens and other things, other enemy types that are going to be mixed in and randomized so you don't know what is what. Then setup, if there's any special setup instructions, any special spawn instructions, your objectives, what you need to accomplish in order to complete this scenario, and any special rules that go along with this. And that'll outline all those. From there, then there's going to be a between scenarios section, and this is going to outline what you can do between scenarios. And finally, the exit. So once you complete the scenario, the narrative along with that. From there, then on the other side is going to be the map that you're going to use for this scenario. And this is going to have all of your different things on it. So on the bottom of the map is going to be a tracker that you're going to track the rounds. And during certain rounds, if there's a letter or something else in there, you're going to carry out the effects of that. Most of the time, it's going to be spawning enemies in those spaces. So for example, we have a space that's marked with S here. And so that when at the end of the rat round, during that step, you're going to spawn an additional enemy into there, taking an enemy from the rat pool and placing it in there. Then you'll have other starting ones. So the R's are going to be the starting spaces that enemies are going to spawn in. You're going to have your starting space and your exit spaces, along with any objective spaces or other things that you'll have to accomplish throughout the scenario. And again, those are all outlined in those instructions. You're also going to have spaces with the L on them, which is your loot spaces. And so there'll be loot tokens on there that you can go and collect to be able to draw cards from the loot deck. From there, then, the map itself is going to be broken down into large squares, and each large square is going to be comprised of 4 small squares. And this is going to be important during movement, which I'll explain a little bit later. You're also going to have some areas that are going to be outlined in different colors, such as red, which means that these areas cannot be moved into by any means. And the yellow areas are going to be hindering areas. Now, the red areas are also going to block line of sight, which is important. The yellow areas are going to hinder line of sight, so if you are shooting through there, there is going to be a negative penalty to your rolls as well as the enemies. The final thing I want to do is take you through a sample turn to give you a better idea how this one plays. Before starting scenario, I do have a couple of additional things that I have to handle for setup, and I do want to go over what I'm trying to accomplish in this scenario, even though we're not playing through the whole thing. So with the second scenario, this is again a tutorial scenario trying to teach you more mechanics into the game. So this is going to introduce combat and some other things. So with this scenario, what I'm trying to do is take the oven clay, which is marked, these 2 tokens here marked on the O, and fill up the 2 holes, which are marked with the D's, to secure the cistern and stop the rats and the roaches from getting in. So once I accomplish that, then I will not spawn any more enemies as I move my token through the round. So other than that, I have to handle some additional setup here. So each one of the R's is going to spawn a token from the pile. And with these, there is line of sight to these. So if we cannot draw line of sight, then they are going to stay hidden and I won't know what they are. So let's go ahead and check line of sight real quick. So in order to do line of sight, you're going to draw a straight line from one of the corners of your square to one of the corners of the other square. And if it crosses over a line or another model, then it is going to block line of sight. And the red lines on these are a little harder to see. And that's just because this is a prototype. All right, so first off with Nira here, if you draw a line from the back of her square to the top of that square, she can see that. So we have a roach up top here. With Leon, I have a straight line that I can go to this one. So we have another roach down there. And Guy, from his square, if he goes straight up to that one, he can see that. So, okay. And same thing here, going all the way up here. He can see there as well. So we know what those enemies are. These are behind this red line here, so we won't know what they are until we get over here. All right, so from there, let's get into the game. So the game itself is going to be played over rounds. Each round is going to be broken down into 4 different phases. You're going to have the initiative phase at the beginning, where you're going to determine which of the different factions is going to activate, whether it's going to be the players and the cats, or the rats are going to activate first. In order to do this, you're going to roll a pair of 12-sided dice, and you're going to choose one of those colors to be the cats, the other will be the rats. So I'm going to go with the blue for cats, and the rats will be white. All right. From there, then, you are going to subtract 4 from the rat's number, and then based on whoever has the highest number will be the one to go. If it's the cats, they can choose to go first, or they can have the rats go first. So in my example here, I am going to go ahead and I think I'm going to let the rats go first this time, actually. So with the rats, in order to resolve them, you're going to move each one of them. They each get 1 action point, and they're going to use that to move or attack depending upon where they're at. And they're always going to activate starting with the one that's closest to a cat and then work your way out. So this one first is going to move, and all movement is done orthogonally. There is no diagonal movement unless something specifically says otherwise. So this rat or roach is going to move forward 1. This one over here is going to move over 1. We'll have this one move down. You're going to go by the shortest path possible. And then this rat here only has 1 as well, so it's going to move down. And then each one of these, since it has not been revealed yet, will only move 1 as well. And then this immediately is going to reveal as it has line of sight. Yes. Okay. So that is all of the rats. So now we're going to move into the cats. So with the cats, each one of them has 2 action points. You can use those action points to do a variety of things, including moving, attacking, picking up different objectives, such as loot tokens, and so on and so forth. So from there, you're going to choose one of your cats to start the turn, and I'm going to go ahead and have Nira start. And so with that, first off, with movement, there are 3 different types of movement. You're going to have Prowl, which lets you move from your small square to an adjacent small square, which is, again, the plus sign. Orthogonal movement only, no diagonal movement is allowed for this action. So with Nira, I could move up. I cannot move into Leon or into Adara's space. So I'm going to go ahead and move up, well, as this example. Now there's other options. You can also do a stride, which allows you to move from your space into an adjacent big space. So, or your big space into an adjacent big space. So Nira could move into any one of those 4 squares, as when you move into a big space, you can choose any of the 4 squares to move into. So it could be 1 space away. So she could move from here all the way up to there or here. And again, it's all orthogonal. You can, as a stride, move 1 space diagonally. So I could move her from there to there. And that's one of the exceptions to the rule of no diagonal movement. The final option she has is a pounce. Now this is going to cost 2 of her action points. It allows her to move up to 2 big squares in an orthogonal direction, so straight lines again. And as a bonus to this, she can also do an attack as a range 0 attack, so she must be adjacent to an enemy to attack them. But for this example, let's go ahead and say that she wishes to use both of her actions to move into this square here. I'm going to choose that one to pounce into, and she gets to do a free melee attack against that roach. Now, the other caveat to this is that she is going to be vulnerable after that. So I'm going to place a vulnerable token on her. All right, so from there, then I'm going to go ahead and attack with her. So her weapon here has a 2 dice, so I'm going to get to roll 2 dice, and I'm looking for a 6 through 7 to do to stun that roach, or an 8+ to wound it. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. And I got a 10 and a 12, so that is definitely enough to take care of that. Roaches only have 1 hit point, so it is going to be eliminated and placed in the discarded pile. All right, so that is her turn as she has used both of her actions. So then it's over to Guy to go next, or I can choose somebody else. So I'm going to go ahead and have Guy go. And with Guy, I am going to go ahead and do a stride to move here. And I think a stride to move there. Okay, and there's nothing else I really want to do with him. I'm going to go with Adara next. I'm going to move her. I'm going to stride her as well here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a search action to pick up one of these loot tokens. Now, each one of our cats can only do one, take 1 loot token. So she couldn't just stay there and continue to take those. Oh no, she drew an ambush. Draw a marker from the rat army pool and place it in the objective square. On the objective square. I would assume that that goes into the square that she was on. And that's bad news. She's got a nasty enemy there. All right, so that'll be discarded. And that is her turn. So then it is on to Leon. And Leon, I'm going to go ahead and do a stride. I'm going to move here. And I'll do a prowl to move there. And I'm going to go ahead and attack, or I can't attack that roach, as that is a second action. So I'm just going to go ahead and, what do I want to do? I'll do another stride to move here. All right, so that is the end of the cat's turn. We've already handled the rat turn, as that one went first. And so now we're moving into the end of the round step. During the end of the round, you're going to move the marker forward. And if there's a letter in there, you're going to resolve that spawn. So I will spawn new enemies on the S spots. So I'll have one here. And I'll have one here, which will be revealed right away. So it's a rat, or a roach. And this one is currently blocked there, but I can see it from him. So there's another roach there. Okay. That is the end of the round. So then we would start a new round. So at this point, then you would continue going until you've resolved that objective. I do want to show one other thing. So let's go ahead and say that it's a couple rounds forward, and we have the Norwegian rat out now. So with the Norwegian rat, it has some nasty special abilities when it is in play. So first off, it is going to, when this rat is on the map, all rats and roaches have 2 action points. And the -4 for the initiative is removed. So when you're determining initiative now, it's just straight numbers. There is no reduction to the rats. And all of the enemies out there now have 2 action points. So these guys are super nasty, and you definitely want to get rid of them as fast as possible. But let's go ahead and say that Leon is next to him, and he spends his 2 actions and was able to eliminate that Norwegian rat. When that happens, with this particular scenario, when slaying the Norwegian brown, when the brown rat is slain, you're going to read entry 2. So there are narratives in the book that you're going to resolve. And I won't read this because I don't want to reveal too much, but that is going to have different effects as well. So that's another neat thing that kind of sets the mood and continues the story as you play through the game. Well, I hope you found the video helpful in learning more about this game and deciding whether or not this is one you want to back on Gamefound. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the Gamefound page and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creator would love to hear from you and is more than happy to answer any questions you have. Until next time, I'll see you later.